I'm thinking of you when we were in Chicago, and since then I've had like 2 Negronis.
Let's go. The drink of choice.
Let's go. Good drink of choice. So every time I drink a Negroni, I'm going to think of you because we did that. Real.
And I hope you do it out of the goblet too.
I am going to do it out of the goblet. I just bought those round ice cube balls. Have you seen those?
Yes, I need those. They're on my list.
Okay, if they work for me, I will have to send some to you because I just ordered them from Amazon. I'll see if I like them.
Let me know.
Awesome. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for joining me. I also wanted to thank you. I don't think people give you credit enough. I want to thank anyone who's ever been on a reality dating show for your service. Like literally, you put yourself out there, you expose yourself for the rest of us to witness your story, and I don't know if you get credit for that.
Like, I don't know how to answer that.
Okay, so I want to thank you though, because I appreciate that, because I get to analyze these shows. This is my passion. I love talking about reality dating because we have real life examples then that we can talk about. And you and I joined around Love is Blind. Not always so easy though. But it's been great getting to know you, and I was just thrilled to meet you in person. Before we start today, Danielle, I sent you the questions that people had already filled out. I want to lay some ground rules though, because I want to give you permission to not answer things. Feel free to say no.
I know. I'm like, there are some NDA things. You should have sent me the no button. I'm like, I secretly love accidentally breaking NDA. Okay.
And I have a yes button too. But if you can't, because everybody has to understand that you have a contract with Netflix, you've got stuff going on with your divorce, and so even though we don't want to spill the tea, we want to spill the wine, right? Like, there's going to be things that you can't answer, and I'm just going to say that's perfectly okay. So I want to give you lots of permission, and even as a therapist, I really like to hold people, their information confidential, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I want to be careful about how we use this, because you've already been through enough.
I'm used to it.
You have.
Yeah.
Okay, but thank you. And I also want to say, Danielle, your followers, because when couples break up, like the followers are very specific, right? And they love you for specific things. And what I loved you for, and I know what your followers love you for, is your vulnerability. And you talk openly about anxiety. And that's such an important thing, because it just helps other people who are having anxiety feel relatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a normal thing that people go through that it's just not talked about a lot. But if you don't feel anxiety and you never have, like, props to you. I wish I knew what that mindset was like, but...
Absolutely. So I want to thank you for that. And you've also been so vulnerable and open about your weight loss journey. Mm-hmm. And I know people have followed you for that. And that is, especially in dating, how important that is. But to be a champion for other people, to role model about that, to talk about your secrets, what you've learned, and or loving your body in any size. Because I don't like the pressure that there is always about being thin, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it's also like understanding the complexities of how losing that much weight can impact your mental health or impact the way that you view yourself, and then kind of like getting past that. So
okay. So people are saying this is feeling stiff. I don't want this to feel stiff. I want this to feel fun.
I know, it's like I need to like hold my phone somewhere else because I feel like it's far away. I'm gonna put it on this candle right here.
Okay. There we go. Perfect, good, because I've got like the ring light, and so I have my hands free. But I want to get into just like the question round, okay? Yes. Realizing there's some things you can say, some you can't, and let's make this a little bit more fun. Okay, Great. So we're gonna dive in. First off, the question is, what even prompted you to go on the show in the first place? Because I know everybody's story is different by the time you got there.
Yes. So when I first watched season 1, I thought it was like a really interesting concept. Because like even just like before I was like dating on dating apps, and it's really hard to know someone's personality before going on a date, and it's not, you can't go just on every single one. And so it's like, it's hard. And even like seeing someone at a bar, it's like, okay, you might think you're attracted to them, but you don't really know until you have a conversation. And so it's not really something that can be prevalent in today's world. Like, no one's going to get a dating app where you just read paragraphs about someone else. And so that was just something that interested me in general. And then I got an Instagram DM from someone who, asked me if I was interested in interviewing for a show, and I didn't know which one it was. I kind of had a feeling of which one it was, but then I had a phone call with them, and it kind of progressed, and here I am.
And Danielle, they tell you that at that point, then, it is Love is Blind.
Yes, I think it was the second phone call. Yeah.
Okay. All right, terrific. Because I've heard different ways. Some people apply, right, and some people kind of get recruited depending on where you live. So I think there's equal ways to go. Fascinating. Okay, so another question. Did you have scheduled times to like go into the pods, or like how do you know who's going to be there, or how does all of that work?
So you don't know who's going to be on the other side. Like, the first day was like so crazy because it's almost like speed dating. So it's 15 girls and 15 guys, and you're just like, it's like 7 minutes in heaven. Like, you're boom, 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 and you have this notebook and you're writing notes down. And it's hard to remember everyone the first date. It's like really who it kind of, for me, was like, who did it feel like time flew with, and who did it feel like in that 7 minutes it was like, oh my God. No offense to people who I was feeling like that with, but then you narrow it down from like 15 to 8 or something along those lines, and every day it gets narrowed down based on like mutual rankings, and then the dates get longer.
Okay. I totally love that. And here's the thing. I also do think that so many people that I've talked to will go on reality dating shows because it's like a guarantee outcome, right? Mm-hmm. You could be dating online like I did for years with no guaranteed partner, no ending. And so I kind of get the allure of that, right? Like, let's get to something a little bit quicker. Pros and cons, but I can see the allure, and everyone has said, because you don't have your phone, that you really do fall in love.
Yeah. And that's like, there's a couple different things that people that don't go through the experience, it's so hard. Like, I would never be able to understand it if I didn't go through it. But one, like, having those conversations behind a wall, one, makes you feel like you're almost like talking to a wall or talking to yourself about your own deepest, darkest secrets. And also, you don't see a reaction. And I think that was something that was interesting, is I would just like talk about everything humanly possible, and they were giving me a dirty look or like being like, you don't see that, so you just keep going. And then if the responses are overwhelmingly positive or they relate to what you're talking about, then you like kind of develop a closeness to them. So I think that was one thing that made it easier to open up. And also, you know that people are there for the same intentions of you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like hide back from certain things that you might on like a first date where you don't know if they're just messing around or
Danielle, I love that. You're right, because if everybody's there to get married, right? Then that precludes this whole thing about like, what are your intentions? The Bachelor, right? We always say there for the right reasons, right? It's like,
and you never know. You still never know. I mean,
of course. Of course. Okay. So, next question. You can say yes or no. What was up with the Insta messages a few weeks ago?
I'm gonna give that one a no for right now.
Oh. Okay, Danielle's giving it a no. Okay, we're gonna move on. All right. Would you do another reality show?
It depends. Like, I would never do another dating reality show. I would do like a funny one, or maybe just like a one episode type of thing,
like a rock band show where you're like,
throw me in a rock band off, like there was a Guitar Hero show. Sign
exactly.
me up.
Or you could be in a costume. Oh my God, I would pay to see that. That would be great. Okay. Next question. How are you? I'm sorry I didn't even ask that from the beginning. Like, how are you doing? How is your mental health? How are you
great. No, like and I'm not lying when I said that. I think everyone knows I'm like extremely transparent. I would say I was bad if I was bad, but I'm great right now, to be honest.
Okay. Good. And tell me, how long has that happened? I mean, it's
almost like 7 months, and of course, like in the beginning can be a lot bit sad, especially when it's like a public breakup, because not only do you have to go through it yourself, but every single other person in the world has opinions. Everyone else is like DMing you about what the other person is doing, and the other person is posting things about you, and that just kind of like delays the process of being happy, regardless of whether or not you're over that person. So, I mean, it's an entirely different world. Like, breakups are hard enough, and it's just like,
Oh, I can only imagine. And here's the statistic, too. On celebrity couples, they're more likely to get divorced. Usually they don't need the money, right? Yeah. So it's like you're not going to put up with it. But the pressure and the social media, we know. And this is why so many couples from so many shows, it's hard to be successful with all that pressure.
Yeah. I mean, I think even on top of that, like, the pressure is one thing, but it's like you don't actually get to know someone. And you think that you do, and you're seeing the best of someone. And like, for us, we get married after 8 weeks, and it's like, you're filming that whole time. And also, it's like you have this in the back of your head where you're like, I never thought this could happen to me. I never thought that I could like fall in love in this type of way. And then all of a sudden you're done, and reality hits, and you're like, oh, we actually aren't compatible. We just thought we were based on the structure that was put forth on the show.
Okay. And someone had a question, which was a good one. Did you think that couples therapy would help you more to kind of get over this? The question was really like, why didn't couples therapy? And I'm like, well, hold on. Couples therapists are not magicians, but the question is about couples therapy in general. Did that help? Did it help move you forward?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped, and it's something that I would recommend to anyone, because again, like, in terms of like Nick and I, and I'll always like resurface this like sentence that the couples therapist said, where it's like, he speaks German, you speak French, you guys don't communicate with each other at all, like, you're not understanding what the other person is saying. But once you do understand what the other person is saying, that doesn't fix all the compatibility things. So, like, again, like, I think one of the things that I brought up was some of the more fundamental issues, like, for example, like our viewpoints on some of the mental health stuff, or like antidepressants, things like that, and bringing children into a home where you have very different views on things. A therapist isn't going to fix that, because I don't want to change and go out of my way to like make my perspective the only perspective.
That's right.
Like, there are times where you can find a common ground, and there are times where you can't, and we just weren't able to have those conversations beforehand.
Danielle, thank you for saying that, because you're absolutely right. As a couples therapist, we can help with communication skills. We can help you if you're having trouble verbalizing and bringing it out, but it doesn't change if you have fundamental differences, want different things. And honestly, even couples, usually when they get into therapy, sometimes it's almost too late. I know in this case it's early, but people can also hide, right? They're early in dating. This is what happens. I show up my best version, right? Yeah. I look secure, but then the pressure and the stress brings out the vulnerability. What I like to say, we're all like tea. You don't know who someone is until you put them in hot water, and then you really see the stress, and then you really see the unmet needs and who they are.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's something that I brought up before, and just in terms of like the ending of the relationship. I know I did a podcast on it, because it's not something that can necessarily be said in just like a 5-minute answer. It was like an hour-long podcast, and I still got that question, and I relay them to that podcast just because it does the best job at describing everything. But that's exactly it, where it's like,
yeah, absolutely. And I also think that couples therapy, though, shout out to that, it does help you get there faster.
Yes.
And that's the whole point. I even had a guy that I was dating, brought him to couples therapy, and it helped me to just move through that much faster than I would have had I not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because even like going through like couples therapy on the onset, it's such a like a relationship that started that fast. It also helps you realize, it's like, like, it's not just a communication error. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And good for you, Danielle, because I also want to say thank you for coming. But having the courage that I think sometimes it's better to end it sooner than later,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Once you know you're not going to change this person, it takes a lot of courage to pull that trigger and then to do that, especially with all the pressure.
Yeah.
And someone had a question about how was it telling your family?
So this was actually a very strange experience too. So I told my parents, and obviously it wasn't just a drop of a hat. It happened. Like we knew for a while that this was going to happen, and my family was fully supportive. And but the weird thing is being on a reality show and having your divorce trending online. I assumed that my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, everyone in my family would just know. And so I didn't tell them. And I got upset that no one reached out to me at first because I assumed, like, oh my God, they know that I'm getting divorced. And then I realized it's like, wow, like I didn't tell them. And that's my job to tell them, not the media. Yeah. And my grandma literally called me and she's like, wait, I just saw this on the Today Show. And it broke my heart. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I didn't communicate it because I just figured that the entire world knew. And I went to a wedding with a couple of my friends from college who aren't on social media, and they're like, oh, how's your marriage? And I'm like, oh shit, like
they didn't know either.
Yeah, and it's like these things where it's like it's a whole new world to navigate. So
yeah. And I think somebody asked the question, what really does happen? And there's so many, I'm sure there's 100 different things. But can you speak to, you have anxiety, you've talked about that, you've been open about that. Was Nick not able to partner with you in the anxiety? Like if you had to break it down and tell people even what to look for in a partner.
It's hard because I don't want to trash anyone. I think that, yeah. I mean, it's just difficult because I don't think he necessarily understood it and would resent me in certain instances in which I needed to deal with it in my own ways. Or it was actually when I wasn't anxious that he would feel a little bit more unstable because I think that he, wanted to be that supportive partner. And sometimes it's hard. There's different ways that I deal with anxiety, and it's not a one size fits all. Sometimes I do have to be alone. Sometimes I do want support, and I need to make sure that I'm communicating that with the other person. But I don't want the other person resenting me for the fact that I need to deal with it in the ways that I do.
Sure.
And I think that was something that, happened a little bit, but
yeah.
With the anxiety part, and, depression's a whole other thing. And the depression of anxiety for me is a different, my definition of certain things, mental health, anxiety, depression, etc., is different than anyone else's, right? And so you can't just assume that someone else is going to, know what you mean when you say depression. It just, you just need to put in the effort to understand what the other person feels like versus only believing your own perspective of it. And I think that was one of the things that was difficult. It's I understand where he's coming from, but he didn't necessarily understand my own definitions of it. And maybe I didn't too. It's,
And Danielle, I really do think it is so tricky for the person who themselves experiences it, for the partner who feels maybe out of control, like they don't know what to do. They feel their own helpless, hopeless kindness, and then communicating together as a couple. What do I need? What do you need?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the complexity of it, and I really think also the irony that couples could come out of this.
Yeah.
I had questions that people asked, what do you think about the show in general, Love is Blind? Do you think the concept works?
Yeah. No, I 100% think the concept works. I mean, the pods were the one time where it was, for lack of a better term, not as heavily produced, at least in my situation, where it was a free-for-all for me. And, I did fall in love with someone without seeing them. And I think I'd be able to do that again. It's just not a readily available thing. It's no one's going to do that in the real world. But it did work for me. It worked for a lot of my friends, almost all of them actually. And so, I believe in that. It's just, I think ending it in a marriage versus something else is what, it wasn't the fact that love isn't blind. It was just the way that the show is set up, I think.
Okay. And that leads me to a question. Did you know that Nick was going to say yes? Did you guys talk about that ahead of time?
Um,
Or you
5
can't?
minutes before. No, it's funny. We went back and forth a lot. So in the beginning, he was 100% yes, I was 100% no. I wanted, like, only just because I was like, I don't think I'm in the best mental space to do this. Like, the show kind of fucked with me. And then we actually had a meeting with my dad where my dad was like, if you want to actually make this work with Danielle, you should say no because she's going to feel trapped. And so then it kind of like flip-flopped, and on the wedding day, we 100% planned on saying no. 5 minutes before I was about to walk down the aisle, he was getting out of the car. He texted me, he was like, should we say yes? And I was like, yeah. So I told all my friends and family at the wedding, I was like, we're saying no. So the second we both said yes, they're like, what? Like, there was like, literally someone was like, what? In the audience. I wish they were mine, but yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and I was like, fuck, I have to change my vows. There were no vows. Now I have to change them to yes vows.
Oh my God. I love also that was spontaneous and kind of real. And that, wow. Okay. Now, back to, you said it worked for your friends too. People wanted to know, who are you friends with from the show?
Oh, I'm still friends with everyone.
I bet.
Like, I'm going to see actually all the girls tomorrow.
Tell them I said hi.
I will. Yeah, I mean, we all have like completely different schedules now, so it's a little bit more difficult to see them as much as we used to. But I do get messages like, please tell me you're still friends. I'm like, we are. But yeah, tomorrow we'll all be together. No, Thursday, sorry.
What I also love is that all of you are like working professional people, versus like becoming full-time influencers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's working, and Chicago's like a great city. How do you feel about being 30?
I was like actually really scared because I'm like, oh my God, it's the end of an era. But 30's been awesome. Like,
great.
I'm like, I am loving it. Let's go. The 30s will be my time to shine.
You were on that hot air balloon ride, and I'm like, oh my God, this is
okay.
Yes.
That picture made me look a lot cooler than I am. I was holding on for like dear life to everything. I'm scared of heights, but I like being scared. But we had champagne on it, and my friends are like, oh, pour us a glass, and my hand's like shaking, trying to open it. They were like, Danielle, we will take it from here.
I love it. I love that your friends rallied for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you watched Love is Blind Season 3 yet?
No.
Okay.
I mean, only just because it's like it's a little bit too close. Not only just like the relationship, but also just like kind of like what we went through in the filming experience. And like I fully support them, but I have not yet watched it.
Right. Okay. And I have another question. You can say yes or no. Mm-hmm. Are you in a relationship?
I am not. No.
No. Okay.
I'll answer it, but the answer is no. Yeah.
Okay. Now, another question. I thought this was a good one. Can you explain the concept of hurt people hurt people?
I mean, I'm not the one who said it, right? I don't know. I mean, how I feel about certain situations is like, if you're hurt, you can either use it to make other people never feel the way that you did, or you can use it because you're trying to like maybe reflect the way that you feel to make other people feel bad. And so I don't know if that's like what people were alluding to when that was said, but I know for a fact that's not me. I wouldn't, my entire life goal is to make people not feel like the way that I did before I started putting work into myself. And so I think a lot more than anything, like hurt people, help people. It depends on the situation though, yeah.
And Danielle, that's why I wanted to put that on our reel, because that is so true that healed people heal people, and you're working on yourself. And I think it's this concept that we use it as like a broad brush that, oh, well, they're a hurt person, so of course they're going to hurt other people. They're acting out. But I agree with you. There's a sensitivity, like, I'm not going to do that.
And that was the thing, I think, that was like more frustrating than anything, was that was taken out of context. The hurt people was referring to things that he knew that had happened to me in the past that I was previously discussing with him, and he used that in a way to I don't know, it was like very triggering for me to heal, for me to hear. because it is so sensitive a subject. And yeah, I'm hurt from things that happened in the past, but I work on it every day. He knows how much I was working on it, and so it was just a jab. Like I know it was a jab, and I should have just ignored it. But
I think what I always say, Danielle, is like the best life to live is a life that's full of love after that, right? And the best way is you're a beacon now for someone who put themselves out there. It didn't work, but you're healing, you're working on yourself, you're learning from the process. Like, what else can we expect?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing is like the more I talk about things that I don't want to talk about, that's another weird thing. It's like I'll have a one-on-one conversation with someone, and like let's say it's like a new person that I'm meeting, and it's a lot more difficult than having a conversation with a group of everyone, like people that I haven't met before. And
yeah.
I think it's because the people who I communicate with online have very similar, experiences, or relate to me a lot, and we kind of help build each other up. But then you're having a conversation with someone that you're just building like a friendship with, a relationship with, and it's like, like how do you do that? It is a lot more difficult when it's one-on-one sometimes, especially if you're not fully comfortable with someone. And so that's something that I'm navigating through now, where it's like I could say anything that I want to because I can see one-to-one how much it is helping other people. But then now that I am single, or now that I am like meeting new friends when I go out, it's like, how do you have those conversations when you're so used to talking about them openly, but usually there aren't things that are talked about until it's like months later.
So help people understand. So you are in therapy now.
Oh yeah.
And everybody loves that you're a mental health advocate, that you support therapy. Is that changing the way that you're thinking about dating in the future and what you want and need and who you're going to choose?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've learned like consistent patterns that have caused me to choose similar people in the past, or just people that aren't a right fit for me. And again, like learning those consistencies helped me learn early on who I should or should not be interacting with, like just in general, like friendships too. And also, like, I know one of the things that I brought up in the podcast also was the fact that I do like everyday work on myself, and I'm never going to be perfect, but no matter what, I always find something else. I'm like, oh, Danielle, here's something else that you learned today. But I want someone else to be doing that same amount of effort, versus focusing just on one other person's flaws. So that is like my number one thing. It's like, yeah, I obviously make mistakes. I'm always going to make mistakes. But if you're not taking accountability of your mistakes or how your mistakes are impacted by your past and things of that nature, then, I'm not going to be able to continue with that relationship.
And Danielle, I love that word, accountability. And for anybody who's watched Love is Blind season 3, I actually did a whole video, me putting on costumes, acting as if I'd been to therapy, and then what I would be saying to own my part. Mm-hmm. Because I don't even want to choose. I'd like to be the neutral person who says, how can we do this better, right? Like, what would accountability look like if I owned my piece?
Yeah.
And that's all you can hope for, is want a partner who's evolving, who has a growth mindset, who themselves is open to therapy.
Yeah. Because that's another thing, like, you don't have to agree with someone else. Yes. Or you don't have to think you're in the wrong, but understanding their perspective, one, or two, like, even if you don't think that you're 100% in the wrong, taking accountability for the one thing that maybe, like, impacted that situation. And so if everything's always 100% on one person or the other person, like, that's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah. And you want somebody who eats a lot of variety of foods, too.
Who doesn't not afraid to eat sushi?
Or bone marrow. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we ate bone marrow together. I think I made you do that. It's like, it's so good.
I'm like, sure, I'll try it. Yeah. I love it. Okay. So I'm running through the questions. Anything surprise you most about the process, being on the show?
I mean, I think it really was just like the pods and how real that was. Yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. Like, for real, I was just like, holy shit.
Don't you think?
Real.
Yeah. I personally think that we should create pods somehow. Like, if pod dating.
Who would sign up for that, though? Like, I genuinely don't think that people would if it wasn't like a reality TV show. because I've thought about that of like, how is there a way to create this for people who really care about that? And I don't think people would sign up for it, transparently.
Really? Okay.
But we can think about something. Let's think about something.
Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for like creative things. Okay. And then the question is, again, would you do it again? Do you have any regrets?
I mean, I have a lot of regrets. It's kind of like a loaded question because I think
I know
I would I would redo it again just because of the things that I'm able to do now and the people that I've again like built relationships through online. Like I have a lot of new friends, genuinely. Like I know all the people that I talk with. And so that is, I think, is more gratifying than any of the
your platform
that have happened. But I feel like a non-grateful when I say that it would be leaning towards. I don't know.
Well,
It's like
it's unfair. Again, I think if the outcome is more than what you expect, I do think that, as I said, some people, online dating, there's no guarantees with anything, right?
Yeah.
You could be doing it for a long time, but you put yourself out there. I do think that even if you have anxiety and you confront your anxieties and you do the things that scare the crap out of you, right?
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Carlton. Sorry, I just saw he's from season 1.
Hey. Hi, Carlton. How are you? Fantastic. So, that was what you learned about yourself through the experience.
Yes. I mean, I learned a lot through the experience. I think also just like rewatching yourself. One, like seeing how negatively I talked about myself. I was like, why do you feel that way about yourself still? And that did like a lot of deep diving into like the self-love workbooks, a lot of different therapy to try and think about like, this isn't normal. So that was actually really beneficial because I realized that it was not appearance that made me insecure. It was past events that hyper triggered me into having those insecurities that I wasn't ready to face at the time. It's just easier to blame it on something else. And that was one thing that like now I feel 10 times better and I'm not judging myself based on X, Y, and Z. It's me recognizing, oh, this is why you felt like this, and it's something that you didn't even remember happened because it was so long ago. And also, yes, and that's another thing. It's like there's a lot of like production things that they do like very mistrue things. So, but like some of it, like seeing me reacting even to what the producer said. So like there were certain situations in which off camera there would be producers who were lying and saying that someone said something about the other person to start an argument, and I should have more so believed the people in my surroundings than I did the producers. And so it looked like there were certain situations in which fights were like happening without any sort of context or just, like why are they fighting? And it was actually just because people were behind the camera shouting things like, this person said this about you, this person said this about you. And then it gets in your head and then you react. And like, but also I shouldn't even be as reactive to that. So I'm thinking like, okay, like why am I reactive in general, regardless as to like who I am being reactive to. But I think there's a lot of people who are like, wait, why are they fighting in the scene?
Well,
and it was nothing to do with each other.
And Danielle, I'm understanding too that you also don't have your normal supports and your friends and your phone, and right. So you're really captive to this environment. An environment really does create all this insecurities that you might not have otherwise. So I really want to.
Oh, Bartista's here. What up?
Hey. Oh, hey, and that was a question from you. Would you ever let a brother holler at you?
What does that mean?
Are you interested in who's your type?
Holla at me.
Holla.
Ask that question.
Tell
them to send me a DM, and tell them to send me a DM, and it depends on how good they're Carlton.
I don't know.
What the fuck does that mean? Same, Carlton. Okay, whoever sent that question, send me a DM. If your pickup line is good enough, please holla at me.
Yeah, holla, hello. Okay. I I felt embarrassed even reading that. I'm like, I have no idea what this is. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. So if we wind this down, the best advice that you could give people about relationships, reality dating show, what would you say?
Relationships or dating shows?
Well, let's give relationship advice and then we'll talk separate dating shows.
I mean, I just got married and divorced on a reality TV show. I don't know if I should be giving marriage advice right now, but I think, or relationship advice right now. But in terms of reality TV show advice, I would say to stay true to yourself and not listen or say anything that you don't want to. And don't think that you need to, if someone tells you to say something, don't. Like, you actually do have more say than you think you do. So just take their toothpaste and cry. But yeah.
Now I feel horrible. I just repeated the question. I shouldn't have even asked.
No, she printed these out, Carlton. I'm sorry. She literally is saying word for word.
I literally just reading what somebody wrote. So sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, I really like to honor people's questions, and I just repeat them. These are not my questions. These are not my words. But Danielle, you have been so wonderful and so gracious to all of your followers, to anyone who has anxiety, to a mental health advocate. And again, we thank you for coming on the show, for being vulnerable, for putting yourself out there. Tell your followers, tell my followers what's coming up for you, how you're going to use your platform. What are you doing?
So I think the main thing that I'm doing is continuing to promote different charities. I know one thing that I'm working with is Nutrisystem, because that is how I lost weight, and so that's one of the partnerships I have. So on top of that, but again, there's some smaller mental health organizations within Chicago that I'm supporting, and then some larger partnerships that I'm about to be a part of. One of them is supporting families that are working with cancer, and then another one is a mental health organization. So we're about to do actually a charity event for suicide prevention. They are based in Chicago, but it's a national suicide prevention organization. And I'm working with the Gold Goblet Company, and they sent us a good amount of products to raffle off. So if anyone donates, we're going to send them different gifts. So
I love it. Again, I love my Gold Goblet. I use it all the time. It actually keeps your drinks cold, which is really nice. Is that a reason? And the Gold Goblet, then you don't see how much somebody has in a drink. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, but I love it. I love the Gold Goblets. I love that that's the signature. And I love that you support mental health charities. Please let me know how I can help with that. Donate. Chicago's my hometown. So many great, deserving charities. So I want people to follow you, of course, get on board with whatever it is that you're promoting. I also have online courses for people, whether they're single, whether they need to figure out their partner. I have a deal going on right now, Cyber Monday. Anyway, to let people know that I'm here to support people in their relationships, whether they have the same or different attachment styles. That's really how I like to fit in. And I do like to say, what can we learn from these reality dating shows? Because I think on the surface, people can get into what team am I on? And I don't like that lingo. It's really about, is this couple, are they good fit for each other? That's really the question.
It's a loaded question, because I think it's hard. I mean, it's so hard because when it comes to reality TV shows, again, without even it being appearance-based, there are certain things that you lose with the pod atmosphere, and that's not saying that it doesn't work, but even sitting down for dinner and seeing how someone treats a waiter, that's something that you don't necessarily get to see, or how they're going to interact with your parents, or how they might treat a stranger on the street. And those are big things for me, at least. And so there are a lot of different things, like body language. What if someone stinks? There's so many different things that go, and that's the stupidest example, but there's a lot of other things that do impact. contract, and it doesn't mean that love isn't blind, but there are additional things that go into it that it might take longer than 8 weeks to, learn. So I think that the main thing is just like the timing of it versus the actual premise.
Well, Danielle, I think that's great advice to just say, slow down. What's the rush? Right?
Yeah.
And I think that is the problem with these reality dating shows, because they're trying to make good TV. And with good TV, we have short time spans, right? And we need to move a story along that otherwise in the real world, we would have so much more information and just more time to develop that relationship. Yeah.
And I know someone else is asking like why I went on the show. You don't think about this stuff until it actually, like, I didn't think about this stuff until really my relationship was coming to an end. And those are the things where it's like, oh, like you do like have these surface level conversations or, this relatability, but then when it comes down to it and it gets to a deeper level and you're seeing the interactions with other people, that's when you actually get to know, like, whether or not it's a fit or not, and it came down to the fact that it just wasn't compatible, but we didn't have the time to find that, even though we had like an instant connection.
Right. So I would say fall in love in the pod. This is like my reality.
That's true. Like that straight up is 100% true.
Yeah.
There's that is one thing that I will like take to the grave.
Right.
Yeah.
Fall in love in a pod, because I do think that you're going to ask more. You're going to ask deeper questions than you would otherwise when you're in real life.
Yeah.
And then take the time that you need, get into couples therapy, and really just make sure that that's right for you, right?
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. And I think both you and Nick have been, again, respectful to one another. I think everybody was just curious, Danielle, because they were rooting for you, right?
I think the one thing, like, there were some more public things that we had said, and I mentioned this actually in the podcast as well, and, like, I think not everyone has read it, listened to it, but I think that that's one of the things that, like, if people were to listen to it, they kind of have a better context of everything. But we got divorced over a text message, like, a long time ago, and we have not spoken or seen each other since.
Okay.
And now it's like a situation where we had to communicate through social media or through his friends texting me and him texting my family. And it's just, it's delaying the process so much. And that's like the thing that is frustrating for me. It's like, that's the only reason there were still social media things happening. It's like, because you would just hear something happening on like a podcast that he was doing.
Yeah, sure.
Even if they're subtle, it's like, you can say that there, but not to me. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make that face. It's just like,
No, I get it. And the feeling is, yes, why not talk to me? Like, whether it's apologies that people have to make. The one good thing I will say on social media is, or these reality dating shows, you can't really ghost someone the way you can in real life.
Right? Like, Jesus Christ, just give me the information to switch the car loan. That's all I want from you.
Right. So there's a way in which when you're on the show and like you have a reunion or something, it's like you do know you're going to get to do that. In real life, you don't. Someone can completely ghost you and have no contact. But at this point, it does sound like it's tough because there's some things you need to work on.
I mean, it was at first just because like the lawyers and the back and forth with all this stuff. Now I'm just like used to it. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, Danielle, you have been such a wonderful guest. We are going to share Negronis with you, hear how you're doing, support your mental health advocacy, and just let us know whatever else you've got going on. I'm here to support you. Love what you've done. Love that you have been so transparent and so vulnerable for the rest of us. I just wish nothing but love for you.
Yeah, no, always appreciate you. So anytime, we'll find a way to figure
Work
out
together on something.
Charities together, yeah.
Yes, thank you again so much. And I will save this, and so people can go back and look at that. Okay.
Beautiful. And I'll probably get on for another 10 minutes after this to read comments because I haven't been able to. So
okay.
Only if they're nice.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll excuse that. I'm just reading, right?
Oh, I haven't. Oh my God, I have a bruise on. No. Yeah.
Okay, but you are the best. Your followers love you. We love you. Thank you again, and happy holidays too.
Oh yeah, I just bought Christmas decorations. I'm gonna come in.
I've got my nutcracker back there.
Where's my tree for today?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you again, Danielle. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye.